Sometimes there are no words, just tears. Amanda Phommachanh is waiting for her husband, Titou.
It's the longest 5 minutes of waiting I've ever done in my life.
It'll be the first time she's been able to touch him since he was admitted to the hospital more than 3 weeks ago.
Wow, you look great.
It's a reunion Amanda and Titou both feared he wouldn't live to see.
What was that moment like for both of you?
It was the most joy I've ever felt. It really was. It felt like everything was whole finally again.
It felt like busting out of jail.
You ready to go? You look like a different person. You lost it totally.
COVID-19 ravaged Titou's health, putting him in intensive care, unable to breathe for himself. Now his doctors and nurses all there for his send-off.
Those are the doctors that take care of you.
So that, as a nurse, it makes it worth it. Risking our lives, coming here every day, just seeing that reunion of a husband and a wife, that was pretty special.
That reunion at the hospital setting the stage for an even more spectacular scene at home, where the father of 3 was reunited with his daughters.
What was the first thing you said to your daughters?
That I loved them. That Daddy was fighting to come back. That's all I wanted. When I was in the hospital, was to get out. Because it was my time to go. It wasn't going to be going in the hospital. So every day was like for me, it was like a fight to get out so I can get home.
At the end of a week where we've seen the youngest victim, a 6-week-old baby, die of COVID-19.
Our hearts break for that family.
And the oldest still losing the battle in record numbers, we're learning more about the virus, who it targets, and why everyone's at risk.
Soon it became a lot of patients who were 40s and 30s, patients who were coming in requiring oxygen and requiring significant interventions that I normally don't do on people that age.
Confirmed cases of COVID-19 in our country continue to skyrocket. In New York City, the epicenter of the crisis, 1 out of every 5 people hospitalized is under the age of 44. In Philadelphia, more than half of all the cases are those under the age of 49.
I have to say that in my career, it's not often that I intubate and sedate someone who is under the age of 40, who has an otherwise normal medical record. It's really rare for that to happen. So for it to happen often now is that's what's shocking me as a physician, and I think that's what's shocking the community.
Oh, beautiful.
Tonight, the journey back. 2 families.
Taylor,
2 reasons to hope. A 26-year-old, after 12 days on a ventilator, surprising his parents.
My wife and I have been holding our breath for the past 2 weeks, just not knowing whether he was going to make it or not.
A father finally returning to his wife and kids in suburban Virginia.
What's it like holding hands again?
Amazing. We're not generally very touchy-feely, but I can't get enough of it.
I'm sure.
yeah. It's the day that I thought it wouldn't ever come.
Titou remembers he started feeling sick at the beginning of March after a trip to New York. He was hospitalized just a week later on March 11th.
He was still really in bad shape, temperature of 104, and just miserable.
Tell me that moment, Amanda, where you had to leave his side.
I got in the car and drove away without him, and I just felt panic. Just why and how? Like, how could it possibly be us of all people?
I'm just letting God take this. The fear's been overwhelming, and I'm trying to have faith, and that's been some relief to me.
Less than 24 hours after Titou was brought to the hospital, his doctor, Eric Osborne, says he had to be put on a ventilator.
It was impressive how quickly he developed severe lung failure.
Amanda, what's it like when the healthcare workers are your only lifeline to know what's going on with your husband?
They got to know me. They knew my number on the phone when I would call. They put the phone on speakerphone and put it by his head so we could talk to him and tell him good night every night. Whether he could hear us or not, I don't know.
Titou, do you remember those phone calls?
No.
But his nurse, Lauren Resch, says those calls matter.
She would say, be stronger, be stronger.
And yet, she told me that every time she called in on speaker that his oxygen levels went up.
Yeah, that would happen too. It was, but that's why family is very important. You know, people recognize their wife's voice more so than they recognize mine, a stranger. And so you do see them improve.
Titou was the first in his hospital to receive the experimental Ebola drug remdesivir. But a week into his hospitalization, his condition took a dive. Dr. Osborne had to put him on a special machine called an ECMO to lighten the load on his heart and lungs.
We didn't think he was coming home. There were days, probably a few days, there that it just was, we were pretty sure that he wasn't going to make it.
It was touch and go.
Yeah, in a way, my stubbornness probably got me back here. So if I wasn't as stubborn as I am, I probably wouldn't be back here.
But you felt like you were on the brink.
Yeah, I felt it wasn't my time to go yet.
Right.
The days and weeks added up, leaving Amanda at home. Their oldest daughter also testing positive for the virus. She developed a slight fever, but is luckily doing fine.
For us, it doesn't change a whole lot because she is asymptomatic, as are the rest of us.
It took weeks before Titou started showing signs of improvement.
They've been able to wake him up. He's very sleepy. He opened his eyes. He was squeezing their hands when they told him to. This is amazing. This is a miracle.
During one of her phone calls, another small miracle.
The doctor happened to be in the room and he was like, look at his eyes are fluttering while she's talking. And I lost it.
When you're putting a loved one on a speakerphone, that's not just sentimental. They're responding to it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It shows you the power of family and the power of love.
In Los Angeles, it's a father, Daryl Ramos Young, who's waiting anxiously for a call. His son is in the hospital.
It is the 19th day of my son's COVID-19 infection, and day 9 of him being on a ventilator.
Taylor, a young and healthy flight attendant with no pre-existing conditions, came down with COVID-19 symptoms last month.
He stated that he had a slight fever, so he was told by the doctor to just go ahead and isolate at home.
Days later, Taylor went to the ER to be tested for COVID-19, but by then his symptoms had grown so severe, doctors admitted him into the ICU.
His oxygen levels kept falling, so the next thing they had to do is put on the full oxygen mask on him over his nose and his mouth. He was really uncomfortable. He was having panic attacks.
Good morning, sunshine. We're hoping that you had some good rest.
Because the virus is so contagious, Taylor's parents and his 2 sisters, Jessie and Nikki, were not allowed into the ICU. Instead, the hospital allowed them to video conference with Taylor.
Watching my son over a computer screen in ICU and not being able to be there with him is just the most horrifying experience we could have. I'm pleading with him and trying to encourage him on, saying, Taylor, you've got to do this. You got it. You don't want to go on that ventilator. It should be the last resort. But it was just too exhausting for him to bear. So that's when he decided that the best thing for him would be to go on the ventilator instead. One of the hardest things is when he's asking, if I go on the ventilator, do you know how long I'm going to be on it? I said, try to be positive, like, maybe it'll be a day or 2. And we'll see you when you wake up.
At that point, Taylor was no longer able to communicate with his family, but doctors and nurses continued to call Daryl, placing their phone by Taylor's bedside.
Hi, Taylor. We all love you, and I know that you're working hard to get better and to recover.
Day after day.
Hi, Tay. This is Dad.
They offer him words of encouragement and support.
Love you, Taylor. Love you.
We know that you can be strong and that you can be brave
Taylor's just the most wonderful guy with a giving heart. He is always thinking of other people. He is known for having this enormous love of ice cream. He also has a really sarcastic wit that everybody really enjoys. He's just a real gem of a young man.
Despite the severity of the situation, Daryl remained hopeful.
I planted some little finger carrots here, so maybe in a couple months I'll have something large enough to eat, maybe even share with Taylor when he's out of the hospital.
It's always a little difficult waking up in the morning because it's another day of the unknown. And then it's always a little bit terrifying when you do receive that phone call. Because you're anxious because you want to hear how your loved one's progressing, but you don't want to answer it on the other hand because it could be bad news. It's attacking anybody.
Up next,
hello, this is Daryl.
The phone call that interrupts our interview and changes everything.
Yo, Taylor! Hey, Taylor!
Stay with us.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.